Students, in today's session, we learn two new laws. Even though we say they are laws, they are not basically laws. They are the laws based on two fundamental laws. But why we need two laws here? Because in day-to-day life, electrical circuits are very complicated. Simply by using Ohm's law, we cannot solve all those things. That's why, based on two basic laws, we go for two laws which are created by Kirchhoff, which will help us to create or which will help us to solve for voltages and currents in the complicated electrical circuits. So now we learn what are those two laws. Before learning them, let me write a circuit like this. Just observe. This is a circuit consisting of a resistance, a cell, and a capacitor, and another resistor, another cell, and another resistor, like this. It may be much more complicated like this. Now, in this type of circuit which has capacitor, resistors, R1, R2, R3, R4, cells E1, E2, E3, capacitor C, like this. These are all complicated network. Even though what I have written is only for example, it will be of no use. But whenever we do domestic circuiting or whenever we create some electronic circuits, electrical circuits, we require to know what are the currents in particular parts of the circuit and what are the voltages across particular components of the circuit. For that, only application of Ohm's law is not so easy. That's why we created Kirchhoff's laws. That is, Kirchhoff created Kirchhoff's laws of electrical network. And to learn those things, we need to learn two definitions in the beginning. Say, this point, what I am marking, what I call as A, and this point B, and this point C, this point D. Say this point E. Observe here, A and B are somewhat different from C, D, and E. In A or B, we have three connections, one from cell, one from capacitor, one from resistance. Here, one from cell, this from cells, and this from resistance. But at C, D, and E, only one wire seems to bend. It is connected to resistance and cell. Here also resistance and capacitor. Here two resistances. That's why these points A and B are called as junction or node. A and B are junctions or nodes, but C, D, and E are not. Say it is just like this. Say when in a big railway station, it's like Mysore railway station or Bangalore railway station, where trains can be received or sent to many directions, they are called as railway junctions. And some stations like Srirangapatna station from Mysore, in between Mysore and Bangalore, or Mandya station in between Mysore and Bangalore, they can receive train from Mysore side and sent to Bangalore side, or from Bangalore side and sent to Mysore side only. In fact, that's why they are not called as junctions. Mysore city railway station, Bangalore railway station are junctions, but Mandya and Srirangapatna are not junctions. Here also similar idea. Observe here, C, D, E in the electrical circuits are not junctions, just like Mandya and Srirangapatna railway stations. A and B are just like Mysore and Bangalore railway stations because they can receive the current from many directions and also send current into many directions. That's why the junction or node is a point where more than two conductors join in the circuit. Junction or node is a point in an electrical network where more than two conductors join. We must not say two or more than two. Two is not possible. That's why we always say junction or node in an electrical network is a point where more than two conductors join. So that is the definition of junction. Here in this figure, A and B are the junction, but EBCD are not junction. ECD are not junctions. Now at the same time, observe, if some current starts from A, it can travel back to A, following the path A, B, C, D, A to B, B to C, C to D, D to A. In the same manner here also, it can start from B, B to E, E to A to B. That means if we start from any one of this point B, we can come back to B after traversing through C, D, A, or else after traversing through E, A, like that. That means these parts where we can come back to the same point without any breaks in between apart from the components, such parts are called as loops or meshes in electrical network. So mesh or loop means a closed part of the electrical network. Observe, B. That's one closed part. That's another one mesh. A, B, C, D, A, another mesh. Like that. So now we learn two definitions. Junction or node, loop or mesh. Junction or node is a point in the electrical network where more than two conductors join. Loop or mesh is a closed part of the electrical network. With these definitions, we start learning the two laws of Kirchhoff. Kirchhoff's laws can be learned. We start with those ideas now. First, we learn a Kirchhoff's junction rule or Kirchhoff's current law. It is applicable for nodes like A and B. Say, it tells us the simple idea. Sum of currents entering the node is equal to sum of currents leaving the node. Observe in this example itself, if I take this as I1 current, this as I2 current, and if it goes I3 current there, say node A, for node A, I1 is entering, I2 and I3 are leaving. I2 and I3 are leaving. I3 can also be written here. That means according to junction rule or law of junction or law of nodes, sum of currents entering, here only one current I1 is there, is equal to sum of currents leaving I2 plus I3. So this is what is the junction rule. This is what we call as junction rule. So junction rule is or what we call as current rule, or sometimes we also call as Kirchhoff's current law, KCL, Kirchhoff's current law. K stands for Kirchhoff, C stands for current, L stands for law. KCL or junction rule, all both of them indicate same thing. So let us define it once again and then we proceed into other thing. KCL means Kirchhoff's current law. It states that sum of all currents entering a node is equal to sum of all currents leaving the node. So with this, we proceed on to next rule, what we call as law of loop or law of mesh. It's also very simple. We learn it now. Just observe. Now we are learning Kirchhoff's law of loop. Law of loop or law of mesh. What does it say? Say, it's also very simple. Algebraic sum of potential differences in a loop or mesh is 0. Algebraic sum of potential differences in a mesh is 0. Very simple statement. We learn what it states now. But let me go through the statement once again. Law of loop or law of mesh tells us algebraic sum of potential difference in a mesh is 0. But here we are using algebraic sum. Algebraic sum means you have to take some potential differences positive, some potential differences negative. That's why we call them as algebraic sum. Now we learn an explanation example for that. Say when we say algebraic sum, it has to say be decided which potential difference to be taken as positive or which potential difference to be taken as negative. For that, we learn the conditions now. Observe in a circuit, say if we have a resistance or we'll look it from A to B. We call it as traversing direction. In which direction we say that we call as traversing direction. In which direction we see into the network is what we call as traversing direction. It may be clockwise or it may be anti-clockwise. But in this figure, R, we see into this R from A to B. Observe, if we have a current going from A to B, we know current flows from high potential to low potential. High potential to low potential. Then we decide, if we look from A to B, traversing direction is A to B, and there's a fall in potential plus to minus, say then the potential difference IR is negative. That means simple thumb rule is fall in potential is taken as negative. Fall in potential is taken as negative. If we look into resistance R from A to B, say from B to A, but current flows from A to B as it is here, but our traversing direction, this way, traversing direction is B to A. Then observe, we move from negative end to positive end, because negative and positive side of the R won't change as the current flowing from A to B. Where current enters, it is the positive end. Where the current leaves, that is the negative end. So whenever we change the traversing direction B to A, then we first meet negative and then positive. There is a rise in potential. There is a rise in potential. That rise in potential is positive. In general, not only with the resistors, even with the cells, very simple idea is always these two. Fall in potential is taken as negative, rise in potential is taken as positive. Even for cells also it is true. We learn about cells now, just observe. But before proceeding with that, very simple idea. For resistors or any component, where current enters, that is the positive end. Where current leaves, that is the negative end. In this case, as it enters at A, it is positive end and it is negative end. How we write it? Because current flows from positive to negative. And if traversing direction is same as the positive to negative end, then there is a fall in potential that is taken as negative. If traversing direction is opposite to the fall in potential direction, that is there is a rise in potential like this, then that is taken as positive. Very simple idea. Fall in potential in the traversing direction is taken as negative. Rise in potential in the traversing direction is taken as positive. We learn or we just go through it for cells. Just observe. We go for the cells now. Say I write a cell here. This is our cell of EMF E. This is A and this is B. Say A to B is traversing direction. Traversing direction. And say you need not bother about the direction of current or anything. In this case, usually current comes out of the positive direction, positive terminal of the battery. This is positive terminal and negative terminal. But our traversing direction from A to B, say we get first positive terminal of the battery or cell and then negative. There is a fall. Fall in potential again. Fall in potential. This fall in potential is taken as negative. That is minus E to be written when we write the equation. So if we do the other way around, say same cell, B A plus minus, but if we traverse from B to A, traversing direction is B to A now, then we first see the negative of the battery and then positive. There is a rise in potential again, minus to plus, rise in potential, therefore E is positive. So these are the two important ideas about cells or components, whatever it may be the thing, whether cell or component. Fall in potential seen is negative, for rise in potential is taken as positive. With these ideas and with the idea of Kirchhoff's law, now we will be able to solve some numericals. Or before solving the numerical, what we want to do is we try to apply it for a, say, particular circuit, what we call as Wheatstone's network. We want to learn that now. A Wheatstone's network is a quadrilateral arrangement of 4 resistances wherein 2 diagonally opposite corners are connected to a galvanometer and other 2 diagonally opposite corners are connected to a cell or a battery. I write the circuit first. Say this is one resistance, this is another resistance, this is another resistance, this is one. What we call as R1, R2, R3, R4, and we call it as A, B, C, D. 2 diagonally opposite corners B and D connected to a galvanometer. Galvanometer means a current detecting device, G. Now other 2 A and C are connected to a cell or a battery like this. So this is what we call as Wheatstone's network. Again, Wheatstone's network is a quadrilateral arrangement of 4 resistances wherein 2 diagonally opposite corners connected to a cell, other 2 connected to a galvanometer. And this type of networks are used to determine the resistance values of, say, unknown say conductor of unknown resistance. Usually in telegraphic networks in the olden days or in any network, you can estimate the resistance value there by using this type of networks. Now we want to learn how this circuit works first of all. For that, we write down the current directions in this. Say current enters from here into this, here current I1 and current I2 splits there, and then this current I1 and I2 here come up to this, here, and here a branching takes place again. Here there are 2 conductors, IG, we call it as galvanometer current, that's why IG, and remaining thing I1 minus IG, because according to Kirchhoff's current law, sum of currents entering is equal to sum of currents leaving. So I1 when entered into B, when it splits into IG, remaining current I1 minus IG should pass through R2. In the same manner, I2 coming up to D, also IG come up to D, these 2 get added in R4 to give us I2 plus IG, and once they reach I1 minus IG, I2 plus IG to C, we get I again. We get I1 plus I2 again, that is IG. Again, say I1 plus I2, that is I again. That is the current like this. So this is the current distribution in this network. But observe, now there's a very specific questions to be tackled here. Say when current are all set in this circuit like this, if I change one of the resistance among these, say R2, if it was 5 ohms, I make it 6 ohms. Then What are the currents that change in the circuit? In fact, many students say current I1 minus Ig, which is flowing through R2, only changes when you change R2. Or current Ig and I1 minus Ig changes. But observe, these are all interconnected resistances. Even if you change one resistance here, current throughout the circuit changes. That means if you change R2, current I1, Ig, I2 are all changing. That's very important idea. As R1, R2, R3, R4 are interconnected, if we change one resistance, current throughout the circuit itself changes. Therefore, this helps us in one way to achieve our idea of getting the resistance value. How? Say if we go on changing the values of resistance, we may arrive at a condition when the galvanometer current Ig 0. That means no current passes through galvanometer. If you suitably set R1, R2, R3, R4 values, no current passes through galvanometer. Then we say network is balanced. Wheatstone's network is balanced. Now, what are the conditions for balancing? Or to say, what is the condition between R1, R2, R3 and R4 to get Ig 0? Because as we said, when we vary R1, R2, R3, R4 or any one of them, any two of them, whole current changes. So there's a possibility of changing them suitably to make galvanometer current 0 to balance the network. That means to make galvanometer current 0. Then what condition to be satisfied among R1, R2, R3 and R4? That is what we want to learn now. In fact, that is called as balance condition for Wheatstone's network. That is called as balance condition for Wheatstone's network. Say that balance condition for Wheatstone's network, we derive it in the next session. And it's a very important 5 marks question in our PO board exam. Now, we continue with this derivation of balance condition in the next session. This session, we'll think of just Kirchhoff's 2 laws again. First law, the junction rule. What tells us as sum of all currents entering a node is equal to sum of all currents leaving the node. But it's not independently a law. It is based on one of the fundamental laws. Can you guess? Say it is saying sum of all currents entering a node is equal to sum of all currents leaving a node. In fact, it is the law of conservation of charge, because once we say sum of all currents entering a node, that means total amount of charge entering the node. Once we say sum of all currents leaving a node, that is total amount of charge going out of the node. That's why junction rule is based on law of conservation of energy. Law of conservation of charge. And similarly, law of loop. Can you think of on which basic law it is based? Law of loop. Let us state the law of loop once again. Law of loop tells us the algebraic sum of potential differences in a network is 0, in a loop is 0. Potential difference, we know from our electrostatic idea, it is the work done. Work done is nothing but energy there. Therefore, law of loop has something to do with energy. That means we state the law of loop once again. It is algebraic sum of potential differences in a mesh is 0. That means rise in potentials are taken as positive, fall in potentials taken as negative, total sum is 0. That means the law of conservation of energy, that is potential difference, implies the work done. Therefore, the law of loop is based on one more fundamental law, law of conservation of energy, as potential difference is nothing but work done. Work done requires energy. That's why law of conservation of energy. Law of conservation of energy. Therefore, two laws of Kirchhoff based on two fundamental laws. Junction rule is nothing but law of conservation of charge. Law of loop is nothing
Here
but law
I
of conservation
conclude
of
this
energy.
session.